Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I am Jojo19 and it is yet another political video discussing the United States political system. Today I wanted to speak broadly about how the United States Electoral College works, its history, how it can go wrong, favourable aspects of it. Now if you have an interest in any specific part of the Electoral College, I'll put timestamps on the video to make sure that you can get there, but I'm going to speak broadly about how it works and how it can change the outcome of elections in some cases. As always, if you have any questions, make sure to join the Discord server, and let's get started. So the United States Electoral College is basically the deciding factor for the presidential election. It is a form of first-past-the-post voting, whereby if a plurality of a state's voters vote for a party or a candidate, that state's electoral college, a set of electors that have been selected by that state's government to represent them in the national election, will vote for that candidate. Now, in some cases, states may have what's called faithless elector laws, which basically means that their electors aren't legally required to vote for the candidate that the plurality of their voters have voted for. You'll see faithless electors pop up more frequently in elections where their state's candidate has lost. For example, in 2016, Hillary Clinton lost unexpectedly, and from a state like Washington, which otherwise would have passed on its electoral votes to her, her electors decided not to. You've got some going to Colin Powell, and another going to Spotted Eagle. You've also got one in Hawaii going for Bernie Sanders. Another example is in 2004 when John Kerry lost. A faithless elector in Minnesota went to his vice presidential candidate John Edwards. Now, the Electoral College system has been widely criticised as a form of voter suppression or outright voter ignorance because you are outsourcing an election to instead be chosen by a set of representatives as opposed to the popular vote, to the people's vote. If I take you back to 2016, we can see that Trump lost the popular vote. Hillary Clinton won it, but did not reach a majority. So she lost the electoral vote, she lost the statewide vote, but ultimately more people in the United States voted for her than they did Trump, as they did in 2000, 1888, 1876, and 1824. Now, the argument that proponents of this system make is that the system provides more representation to communities that might otherwise be left ignored or may not have stronger investments into their constituents. If I take you to example for Wyoming, Wyoming is a state of less than 100,000 people, but in the Electoral College vote, 3 out of 538 is more than 80,000 out of 300 million, so it helps boost the representation of rural voters. But through doing so, it also distorts the value of those voters, or rather the constituencies of those voters, in a national election. So is it really fair? Because it distorts the votes that New York has, it distorts the vote that California has, and the value of the votes in states with stronger populations. Now, another argument in favour of the Electoral College is that the popular vote shouldn't decide national elections anyway, in that the United States is a representative democracy, not a full democracy, in the sense that they choose their representatives. They choose their senators to vote on the issues. They vote on bills, they vote on amendments, and they ultimately vote to impeach the president. If you look at the most recent Australian election just last year, Labor was largely touted to win, and they did. They won a majority in the parliament. But they lost the first preference vote to the coalition by 3%. Now, Australia uses preference voting, which is a bit different to how the United States works, and it distorts and skews how many votes they actually got. They did win the two-party preferred by a decisive margin, but in any case, there are still claims that the popular vote and its importance are overvalued. Now, whether the Electoral College is a strong electoral system or not, it does still have issues, as such in 1824, where no candidate reached a majority of electoral votes because it was split between 4 candidates who each appealed to different regions. Another election that was highly disputed and controversial was that of 1876, whereby the states of Louisiana, Florida, South Carolina, and Oregon all had very contentious battles, and both parties reported that their candidate had won in these 3 states. As such, it required the formation of an electoral commission, whereby a set of electors were assigned to determine whether the electoral votes gained by these states for Rutherford Hayes were valid, and they determined that it was, as they were Republicans. Sam Tilden also was able to win the majority of the popular vote, the only time in history that this has happened. Now, finally, I want to look at what this means for 2024, for the presidential election of 2024, as it's actually surprisingly significant. In that, of course, every election cycle, different electoral votes and different electors are placed in different states. You have to keep it even, and as states' populations and representatives change, different states are granted electors. For example, in this cycle, the Rust Belt and North has been losing a few of their representative districts. Overall, it is currently accepted that Republicans have gained generally 3 electors and Democrats have lost 3. That is a big boost to Republicans in the national election, and here's why. If we go back to 2020, we can see that Joe Biden won by 306 to 232 to Donald Trump. Again, we went through this last video in which we discussed that the states aren't going to change by the looks of it, but swings against Joe Biden are going to be apparent in Wisconsin and Nevada. But in 2024, as we can see, the 3 most marginal states, if you remember from the last video, are still technically toss-up states. So what happens if a Republican wins them? Let's run a theoretical scenario in 2020 and see what happens if Donald Trump is able to get Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin. Wow, okay, now here's something interesting. 269 to 269. That is an electoral tie. This was a very probable outcome in the 2020 United States election. This could have very well happened, and it would have left the election to go to the House of Representatives for the first time since 1824. Now let's see what happens if we perform the same scenario, but in 2024 with the electoral redistribution. Republican Arizona, Republican Georgia, Republican Wisconsin. The Republican Party wins. They win the majority of electoral votes. It's 272 to 266. This is a very probable outcome. If there is a swing against the Republicans that is more so than expected, this is a very probable outcome. Look at how that changed. It went from 269 to 269 to 272 to 266. 3 electoral votes, 3 going down into the South, into Georgia, into Florida. They increased the Republican vote nationally, and they changed the election from going to the House of Representatives from sticking to the Electoral College. How significant is that? And again, it doesn't matter who wins the popular vote. Democrats, again, will likely win it based off of the northern vote. But Republicans will win if this happens, and it's very probable. So I hope this video was able to give insight into what's going on with the Electoral College and why it is such a significant part, especially that of the redistribution of electors in the 2024 election. I'm hoping to talk more about it over the next few weeks to see specific numbers in Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin. We'll take a look at them and we'll see if it's probable enough to see that the outcome that we just played out will happen in 2024. So thank you all for watching. Again, please feel free to join the Discord server. We've had a few joins already, and feel free to discuss with me and ask questions about what's going on. I'm having a lot of fun making these videos, and I'm hoping you guys are enjoying them. If so, please make sure to like and subscribe. And with that, I'll see you all next time. Thank you.